So we're here to talk about a movie that came out.
No. A good movie.
A good movie that came out not too long ago. And I'm not going to lie. I left this theater. And the first thing I was just like, we got one! I don't know how you guys felt. But the moment I heard about a Toy Story 4, I was just like, but why?
Yeah, we're like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, it's like, why? You know, it's like, we didn't need a fourth, you know? So is it unnecessary? Look, so I'll give it to you that. If it's unnecessary, yeah, I'll give you that. Mm-hmm. But it was actually a very, very good movie. I think we might be found like one thing that was probably wrong.
That was the only problem. We were like, well, why are they doing that when this is happening? We'll get to that. But the other thing is, if you, as we've talked to other people who goes like, man, Toy Story 3 just made me hate it and this whole dark kind of thing. If you didn't like that, this redeemed itself.
Yes.
It really did. And we had to go back, at least I had to go back and figure out, okay, I got to remember what's going on in Toy Story 3. Because I first thought, I was like, wait a minute, isn't that his kid? Mm-hmm. I was like, no, it's not. Because remember, Andy went off to college and left the toys to the girl.
Right.
Bonnie. Mm-hmm. And so we're like, okay. Yeah. So we had to I had to go back and kind of refresh my brain on that. Because, dark, it was really dark. Toy Story 3 was very dark.
Yes.
This one... It had its dark moments. Not in a way that Toy Story 3 did so much, but in terms of kind of the characters, some of the characters, and kind of the strangeness, like the mannequin or the dummies and stuff. Yeah.
I will. First thing I always have to praise about these Pixar films from the time that they started to now is the animation. Mm-hmm. The animation is pretty freaking phenomenal. And
Pixar's definitely known for their animation quality. Yes. They've been the best for a long time.
Yes, and they have greatly stepped it up.
Yep.
Because
that was
this dude scared the frick out of
me.
I know.
When I saw that's kind of like the bad PlayStation 2 cutscene right there.
Yes,
kind of you're like, yikes.
But technology and stuff has improved.
What was Toy Story 1? 91, 92, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, I mean
even for its time, still, but like this dude's still scary a little.
Yeah.
But just the visuals of it look just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Just absolutely phenomenal. It's like to the point where even though like they're the fact that these characters are so good, that's one thing, but also just you forget that these are toys. After a while, it's just like you get so pulled in, and I could say like they argue that they've done this with the other films as well, but like you just get so pulled in, it's like you just forget that like, oh, you're watching toys right now.
Right.
So like like there's moments where like kids will come around and there's like, oh, where do they got to drop real quick? I'm like, wait, why'd you do that? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, you're a toy.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like you, in my opinion here, from what I only wrote one negative thing. In fact, it was so good I didn't write much because I was really lost in the story. Mm-hmm. And I don't think you wrote anything actually. I don't think. Did you? Because you were kind of just focused on the story. But I like to write as I watch, and especially if it's really bad, I'll write a lot. And if it's really good, sometimes I write a lot. But at the same time, this was so good that it just enraptured and enthralled me that I didn't think to write a lot of stuff down. And but like you said, it's so real that and like kind of grounded, and even though it's dealing with toys and a fantasy kind of setting, it was so real and sometimes sad. It didn't pull any punches. Mm-hmm. I mean, it gave you like, you're like, okay, so this is a real, like, at the beginning when they kind of did a flashback where Bo Peep's lamp is sold or something. Mm-hmm. And you're like, man, that was deep. Yeah. And you saw that moment. You're like, so Woody's going to just let Bo Peep go. And there was an affinity towards each other because they built up on all the movies. And so you're just like, and then he just let her go. And you're like, damn, this is like Casablanca or something.
Yeah,
this is crazy.
Off pretty emotional.
Yeah, it really does. Really real and kind of sad and deep. And you're like, so does Woody go with the girl or does he stick with, obligation to his kid and picks his kid? He picks our obligation.
Yeah, because it's that whole thing like, toys get lost all the time or whatever. But, he just... he chooses. He makes the decision to stay with Andy, obviously, and everything. But there's something that might disappoint some people in this movie. And like, while all the characters do make their appearances again, you still have the old crew and everything like that. There's not much of them in this movie.
No.
And for some people, that might like hurt the movie a bit for them.
Right.
You do have new characters that do show up and everything like
Right.
that. You do have new cast members, and they're good as well. But again, like very, very relegated to the side here.
Right.
And the reason I'm okay with it is because, to be perfectly honest, this is Woody's story.
Yeah.
Like solely Woody's story.
Right.
So-
You kind of saw it as in like Woody's trying to still kind of keep it going, even though he's kind of been relegated to. They didn't do the heavy-handed thing of, well, this character's a girl, therefore she must play with girl toys.
Right.
Because she didn't. She played with a mixture of toys, but it did seem like Woody was on the way out, and some of these other toys were on their way in. And then when the little girl created Forky,
yes,
that became the center character because she was scared, going to kindergarten, didn't have any friends, liked her toys, liked to play, but it seemed kind of like nobody kind of included her, so she's all by herself. And you're like, man, you felt really sad for her. Like, yeah, right there where you get the little girl created a Forky character, and she was like, and then the teacher was like, oh, look what you did, that's so cute. And then when the thing came alive, we're like, what the heck is going on? But the funny bit was, it didn't think it was a toy. But first of all, how it came alive, we don't know. But we didn't care. We didn't care. We're like, by the power of imagination.
Yeah.
Like, how are the other toys alive? We don't care. Power of love, power of imagination, whatever. And so then when she created a toy, then it out of basically trash, what you found in the trash thing.
He thought it was trash.
Forky kept going, trash. And he kept running to jump into the trash. He's like, trash. As he's like, oh. And he's laying like,
the claw.
Yeah. So it's funny because that was funny because Woody had to keep stopping him from jumping in the garbage.
Exactly.
And he's like, ooh, trash.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
It was an interesting dynamic in that way because this was, you can really see like how Woody is more like just a real good mentor to this new character,
right?
And like I said, like with his sense of duty and everything, it's just like, look, no, you were created out of, like I said, you were created out of love and out of necessity. She needs you, so he sees himself in Forky in a certain way.
Yeah.
And talking about Forky, I was a little bit worried when he was made,
right?
But this is a charming character.
It really is. That's the other thing.
Very charming character. Like I said, very funny, but just very charming and just naive in a lot of ways,
right?
Which is kind of fun because like you can, it's the old the Vision line, which is like, well, I was born yesterday,
right? Well, but here's the other thing. Then it for the Toy Story, because we've seen all the characters. This was fresh and new.
Yes,
this hasn't been done yet.
Right.
It wasn't like a toy she bought. It was something she created. So it was not an actual real toy, but a toy that she created to be a toy.
Right.
That she had an affinity towards and that she loved. And so he had to protect that toy, which wasn't a real toy. Like it was, stuff she found in the garbage, literally, for her to create the little craft thing that she did in kindergarten. So, I mean, and in fact, Woody was the one who helped to create it because he stowed away in her backpack on the first day of kindergarten. Yeah. And so he actually helped create because he grabbed all the stuff to, because she didn't have any supplies because the other kids grabbed everything and she just had like some glue and a few things. And so he just threw that stuff on her table. And it was funny because that character, you're seeing it like the movie from fresh eyes.
Yes.
And like I said, he's naive for a lot of things, but at the same time, when Woody's explaining, well, Bonnie is your person and you bring joy and love to her. And he's like, but my purpose is to be in trash. He goes, wait a minute. So my purpose is not trash. It's because he asked me, he says, well, why do you want to go to trash or the thing? He goes, that's the thing I'm love and I'm drawn to. He goes, but that's Bonnie is love and drawn to you. He goes, she goes, and so he's like, so Bonnie's like trash. And he's like, well, sort of, yeah. He goes, He goes, but she goes, so Bonnie loves me like I love trash. He goes, yes. And he goes, oh. And so now, you get this self-aware spork. And I'm like, holy crap, this is amazing that I'm watching. That's why I didn't write much stuff down.
Even there were some characters I was actually a little bit concerned about because I knew who they were. I didn't know who they were until I saw the credits roll and everything, but I knew who they were supposed to be. And we have the characters of Ducky and Bunny, and they're played by Key and Peele.
Right.
And I was a little bit concerned because I was like, oh boy, are they gonna are we gonna get the token black characters or whatever?
Even though one's a purple bunny and the other one's a fuzzy ducky thing.
Yeah, and like everyone will probably remember from Transformers 2, Mud Flaps and Skid, and it's just like you see those and you just cringe. And and I will say this, as I was very surprised, they were more like the valet characters from their show, but like real people. Because they're like, for comedy's sake, they're tied. They'll dial to 11.
Right.
But they are actually they feel very realistic. Just as much as like I'm a black guy talking to you guys or whatever.
Right.
So that's I'm going to say things a little bit differently than you guys will. That's just the nature of it. That's where I grew up and stuff. But they're just the same way. It's just like,
but they also kept it in context of the fuzzy bunny and the fuzzy chick, and that they knew more about that area because it was their neighborhood or whatever. So but they stayed in the context of, hey, I'm still a fuzzy bunny, and so they didn't take it out of that, which I appreciated. And again, they kind of threw they had the more street cred, because again, if you think about it, just in general sense, let's say you have a person who's lived a kind of a sheltered life, and you have some people who've been out on the road and seen some things. That's the context they kept it in. It's like, oh, well, these two characters have been out with these carnivals, because it's like a street carnival. It travels around, different places, like you see carnivals and circus kind of things do. And like, well, they've seen a lot. They've been in a lot of places. But yet Woody is a kind of a, sheltered toy that's only been with a person and hasn't been out in the wide world, like, say, the character when Bo Peep kind of went out.
It's kind of the difference between, if you want to go, what is it? Lady and the Tramp.
Yeah. But and in some ways it was a little bit like Toy Story 3 with the bear who had been around and seen it. Of course, he was a little more dark and evil.
But there's one character I was so surprised about, because I got to talk about this.
Right.
I was so surprised because I didn't realize.
Is that a Canadian flag on that motorcycle?
It is.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Basically, he's the Canadian Evil Knievel is what he is. He's Duke Kaboom. Duke Kaboom.
He is
Kaboom.
Awesome and very funny character.
He's got many action poses as he was demonstrating.
Yes. And I was so surprised, extremely surprised to realize that this character, with all the energy that he had, was played by Keanu Reeves.
Right.
I was like,
nice.
What? Where has this Keanu Reeves been our whole life?
Right, yeah.
Because even Bill and Ted, he had a lot of energy and stuff like that. Yeah, but this was a whole other level and everything. Yeah. And like Anthony was telling us, our friend Anthony, he was telling us, he was like, there was times when he was recording, he was like up on a table and stuff and just getting so into it. Yeah. And I was just like, I completely understand, but I'm just like, wow, I had no idea. I had no idea he could get to, everyone can kind of get to that level, but I'm like, it amazed me for Keanu Reeves to,
I guess if you give a man enough Red Bull, it'll something.
It does give you wings. There you go.
Or something.
Yeah.
But let's talk about our villain here.
Gabby.
Yes, Gabby. Who's actually winds up not to be as much of a villain as you would think.
Yeah. She's placed the heavy at the initial part, and it's interesting because
did they just make another ginger villain?
They did. They did. And I will say this as well: the actress is actually a ginger who actually played her. Was Christina Hendricks. Yeah. So yes, she's a redheaded villain. So that's kind of cool. I like that. Now I will say, very creepy.
She does pull off the the cuteness, but the cuteness almost
yes.
makes her
more evil.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost, honestly, she in an animated sense, she's a Bond villain.
Yeah.
She really is, because she's got her henchmen, she's got her lair, and she, instead of, because like Blomfeld is like, so Mr. Bond, I know you think you're going to survive this, but you will not make it. I'm sorry that such a worthy adversary will meet such an unfortunate end. And she was super calm about it.
Yes.
And she was so cute and adorable that you did not expect her to be so dark and disturbed.
Yes.
I will say it that way. But again, are we going to spoil that?
Yeah. We can talk about that. Yeah.
So, as he wrote down here,
sympathetic villain,
right?
Very sympathetic.
Yeah, because you're like, okay, wow, she's really jaded and just hateful and mean, and has the creepy dummy army to help her.
Yes.
Yeah, her minions basically.
Yeah. Because. I'm looking forward to the image here, because it's
is it many of them, or is it just that one?
It's all three of them.
Yeah.
And like I remember seeing, like, there's moments when these things are running.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I know I got it. I'm looking for it.
There it is. Yes.
There it is.
Very creepy, because their heads are like all bobbing and stuff. And you're like, okay, this is nightmare inducing. I hope kids won't have horrible screaming, because look at their faces. They're like, and here's the thing, they don't really say anything. They just kind of turn and they're sitting on guard duty, and their heads are spinning like they're got demons in them, and they're like.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We understand, like, this is your reaction when you see them. Like,
yeah. You're like,
when you find out what her actual motivations are throughout this movie,
not that she just wants to rip out his voice box, because of the reason. You're like, wow,
and because like William just talked about, it's like, this is a thrift shop. This is where things go that nobody wants.
Right.
Her.
Right.
She wants to be wanted. There's a girl that comes in this store every day.
That's a ginger.
And
that's a
she
ginger.
Dreams of being
right.
Well,
I will say the reason why she's there, because her voice box was messed up, and she tells us like, it was messed up on production. Her record's good, but the voice box was defect. So she was just kind of discarded. Yeah. So she never had Woody's ideal of being loved by a person, because again, she's a toy, and so her reason for existing is to have someone love her and a child to fawn over her.
Yes.
So then you're like, and when she explains that, you're like, wow, I'm getting all kinds of sad right now, because she's like, all I want is that same love that you felt, that same sense of belonging, and I've never had that, and I'm just like, I'm not crying. I'm not. It's just something in my eye.
Yeah.
And she's so tender about it. She's like, she's
sincere.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're just like,
a sincere sociopath.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then Woody does the self-sacrifice thing, and he sacrifices his voice box. And then, are we gonna keep going?
No, I'll leave that part out.
Okay.
I'll leave that part out.
Okay.
Because something does happen.
Yes.
And it's one of those, like, it'll tear your guts out.
Yes.
Once it happens, you're like,
if you were kind of brokenhearted about the discarded toy who never felt love, you will need to have the tissue handy right there, because you're right there on the edge, and what happens will push you off the deep end in an emotional sense, not in a horrific sense, like in Toy Story 3 with them getting pushed into an incinerator. That's a whole different thing. Where a lot of movies, they've kind of like, Bonnie's a female character, whereas Andy was the male. They didn't heavy hand any of this. They didn't heavy hand like Woody or Bo Peep or any of that, because like even Bo Peep with she struck out on her own. And then she was gonna let Woody go back to his kid, and she's like, I mean, she didn't cuss him out, but you kind of was thinking like she's doing the frickin' like from Flintstone. She's got sense of duty, and she's like, sense of duty, and she goes, but you gotta love him for that. And then you're like, because he's staying true to his character. and you know that he has that sense of duty and that sense of obligation that he can't. Because here's the thing, he had a quest, he had to do this. He wasn't going to give up on his quest because again, that's who he is. And so they didn't betray any of the characters.
Exactly.
But at that point, you're like, this is a perfect ending to this series.
Yes.
It really was.
Yes.
Now, I will say the only thing I didn't like that it didn't make sense was they had to infiltrate the thrift store and they had to get a key, which there was some funny moments with the stuffed bear and the stuffed bunny and like, this is how it's going to work out. And then they said a really big long one. When we get to the key, we'll get to there in a minute. It's like, but that was kind of funny, which is their only imaginations. But they didn't really need the key because the dummies kept opening and closing the cabinet. So I'm like, why do they need the key?
Yeah.
I mean, no offense. It's like, Duke Kaboom, you do a jump and find his, his confidence or something and, and all that, which is funny and is interesting. But I was like, they don't need the key though, because they just went in and out without a key.
Literally just
right after that.
Yeah.
They go, we need that key. And then they just showed the dummies open and close the cabinet. I was like, you don't really need the key then. Yeah, because they're already opening and closing the door. You can't do that if it's locked.
Exactly.
So I don't know why they needed a key. That whole thing seemed a little weird. Other than that, that was the only plot hole that I noticed that was obvious. Other than, of course, a toy catching up to an RV, which is going down the road at 50 miles an hour, and the toy is walking at maybe for its size, maybe 1 mile an hour.
Yeah,
maybe I don't know. But yeah, other than that, I mean, that you have to kind of throw that out the window. But yeah, for that, I did make sense. I was like, because you just said that, and then you see the dummies opening and closing the cabinet, and I'm like, well, you don't really need the key then. And when they just go like, hey, we don't really need the key, it's dummies just open the door. I go, oh, and then you get it done. You're like, oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
I did find out that I can't, whenever I do have kids, if and when I ever do, I can't have a daughter. The mom is going to have, like, because I mean, God forbid if my daughter winds up like a cute little girl, I'm just like, oh crap, she starts crying or something like that, because there was the particular moment that we didn't talk about, but there was a moment where like I mean we could talk about it a little bit. There's a moment where there's a little girl and she's lost in the amusement
after
park.
all this emotional stuff, you're like, oh great, there's a kid lost and she's crying and she's shivering in the dark
mess, and I'm
in the
just like,
corner.
Please stop.
I know, but like I don't have enough tissues for this mess, man. I really don't.
So I'm like, please stop. And I'm just like, man, I can't, like, the mom will have to discipline the daughter up until like she becomes a teenager. Then I'm like, okay, yeah,
I'll take over now.
Yeah,
I was like, because I mean, literally at this point, I was like, I'm a grown blank man. I don't want to cuss. I mean, you said the F word. I'll say I'm a grown ass man crying at a Toy Story animated movie. I'm like, I ain't got enough tissues on me, ain't enough Kleenex in the town to help me right here. And I'm like, yeah, like I said, please stop.
Yeah,
I just can't. I can't. It's funny because
behold the power of animation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic.
And I want to say I felt pretty emotionally drained, but the payoff at the end was so good that it wasn't like a draining, like I'm exhausted drain.
Yes.
It was a good emotional like road.
Yes.
That again ended proper, I think. That the payoff was just great. The payoff, I mean, just I don't know. I don't want us to say. It's just I think it was a great movie.
Yes.
Certainly one of the best movies we've seen in a very long time. Certainly this year.
Especially this year.
Yes.